Okay, hi Margo. This is a short video to show you what I did with the data you gave me in your notebook about how you've been feeling. And what I did is I graphed it versus time according to your notebook, and then I set up a value system here based on how you're feeling. So 0 is considered normal, that's green, that's when you're feeling well. And then I took this to -5, which you are very, very tired. If you did any movement, you bring on an attack of tiredness. So that's kind of the scale I was working on. And what I wanted to show you here is how this graph could be helpful, I think. So here we are back here in July 11 when you were feeling really, really, really bad. And they gave you a 1/2 unit of transfusion of red blood cells. And that, of course, brought you back up and you felt normal for a number of days here through the middle part of July. And then, according to your notebook, you dropped a little bit down to the -1 category. You had yellow-green half circles on here. And then you carried this along for a number of days. And then there was a boost of 1 point, and then it dropped down. Now, if you notice here, this jump in this 1 point here, we see it here and we see it here. So when we're gathering data, typically when we see 1 point that isn't replicated the following time, these tend to be outliers. Okay, so we'll just call these outliers. So let's just ignore these jumps right here because these are just single day points. So let's assume that this is coming like this is like this, and this is like this. So now what we have is we have a steady decline. This is what I was looking for in the data to kind of give us an idea of how you feel versus time after infusion. And let's use this to predict when you need to get your next red blood cell transfusion so you don't get into these zones, the -5, when you can barely get out of bed and have serious attacks. Okay, so here again you come down here, you're feeling -1. Okay, -2, you're not feeling normal on the weak side and tired, but you're still able to do normal daily activity. But then notice here it drops down. A couple of days, you're at this lower level, and then you drop down to -3. And -3, now we're getting into the red zone. This is when you're starting to feel really tired here. So you carry this one through this period from the end of August through probably close to between the 1st and 2nd week of September, and then look what happens. Crash. And here's your -5. This is when you can barely get out of bed and you're very, very tired, and this is unacceptable being down at this level. Now, you bumped up here up to -3 for a few days and then dropped down. I think what was going on here is in your recording system, I think you felt so bad at this point here that when you did feel a little bit better, you recorded it as a little bit better, but I don't think this is probably real. I think you were probably down here in the -4 to -5 zone. So essentially what we need to do is we need to keep you out of this zone here, right? So we don't want you to go here. -3 is as far as we need you to go. Now again, here is toward the end of September when you were crashed really bad. You got your blood test and the doctors panicked and said, oh my God, this is really low. So let's give her 2 full units of red blood cells. And what did it do? Boom! It popped you right back up here into the normal, and you've been feeling good ever since. So based on this data, we don't want to go into this area here. We don't want to go into the -4, -5. We don't want you to go anywhere below -3. Okay, so this is when that red zone, I call it, when you're feeling starting to have really bad attacks start creeping in. So this X here is where I would predict that you should not go any further based on your transfusion of 1/2 unit back here. So we're looking at July to August to September. So we're looking at just slightly less than 2 months the 1/2 unit lasted. Okay? So 1/2 unit lasts 2 months. So there gives us, if you take a transfusion of 1/2 unit, you shouldn't go more than 2 months beyond this before you get your next transfusion to avoid getting into this red zone, danger zone here. Now here we've got 2 units. Okay? 2 units here because you were in a crisis level. Now, you haven't come down yet, so this is where we need to track the data as we move forward. When does this start coming down? Because we do not have a proper full cycle. We have a cycle for half a unit. We're working on a cycle for 2 units. Obviously, this should last a little bit longer than a couple months. But what we need to do is see when you start to tail off in this portion, and based on 2 units, and then get you onto the 1 unit transfusions, and then monitor your activity so that we can have some level of periodicity between the 1 unit and how you feel after that, and then be able to see the cycle to predict when you need your transfusion and when you cannot go any further without a transfusion. Okay? So again, Lynn's going to give you a copy of this sheet when she sees you, but just ignore these. Again, these are outlier points I would consider, because they're 1 point, they're not replicated. If you had another point and then it came down again, then I would say it'd be real because you had 2 successive points. But based on 1, I would say that's an outlier. And the key here is look at what we've got here. We've got a steady decline. Not good, but at least it allows us to monitor your feeling, how you feel, versus the transfusion time versus the time after the transfusion. And we can start making some predictions. So that's what I wanted to see, if we could do this. Again, we need to see how you're going to respond after the 2 units, and then let's make sure that we get you 1 unit next time, not going so far so there's a crisis, so that we can see another cycle, and then we can start seeing how your body is responding to these 1 unit transfusions, and when comes the time that you need the next transfusion without going into a crisis.